Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour panel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour panel, where we get together and we discuss current events happening across the globe and right here in this great nation as well. We have a lot that we are talking about today, but to start off, we're going to talk about the new governor in Virginia. Now, the new governor in Virginia has just taken over, and on his first day, his very first day, he went ahead and signed a lot of documents, a lot of executive orders making major changes to Virginia policy. Now, Governor Glenn Youngkin signed 9 executive orders and 2 executive directives changing the face of Virginia as we know it. Now, the one that we're really going to focus in today is the policy that he changed for Virginia schools. Now, prior to Governor Youngkin's coming into office, there were mask mandates in place, and if there was a mask mandate, kids in Virginia schools had to wear masks. Now, Governor Youngkin, with his executive orders, is saying that kids no longer have to follow the mask mandates. Schools can still put them in place, but if parents decide that they no longer want their kids to wear masks, their kids can go to school completely maskless. Now, we're going to go to Wade first because, Wade, you have a child in the Virginia public school system. So tell me, Wade, what are your thoughts about this new policy?
So first, when COVID first came out and everybody was talking about masks or no masks or anything else, I was like, everybody can choose for themselves at that point. Then it got worse, and the masks had to be for everybody to try and protect everyone. And now it's even worse with this variant, and it'll get worse again with another variant, and so on and so forth. But now all of a sudden, everybody's saying that this variant is worse than all the rest. It's a super spreader. It's so easy. It's going to kill people. It's going to kill kids. It's going to do all this. This is the time they should have mandated that everybody has to wear masks, not, in my opinion, 2 or 3 months ago or the last version of. Pulling them out now is just plain ignorant, not only for the kids, but for the teachers as well. What if the teachers come back and say, you know what? They're not going to wear masks. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like teaching. And they all walk out.
Sean, what are your thoughts?
Whoa, it's so divided in the country about this issue. It's just horrible, the division in the country. When you deal with children, it's really a heartstring thing. Like, I mean, that's Wade's child. I mean, God, your child is the most important thing in your life, really, when you have a child. My view right now, based on what's going on now, I think we should be in virtual around the country. I think schools should be virtual right now. And I think they should be heavily investing in virtual education overall until the science catches up with this ability to know how it's going to affect children, how it's going to affect staff. I know here in California, for example, there's one classroom with teachers out and 5. If three kids get it, the whole classroom goes down for 10 days. That's the new policy now in California. And it's so crazy to think about because it's only a classroom. And then who do these people interact with in a classroom that would just take one classroom out, like all 4th grade for 10 days and evaluating for 10 days. I am totally in favor at this point, based on the current variant, that we should be in virtual education right now across the country.
Dr. Tracy.
I think I should go buy a lottery ticket because for once, I think we are all in agreement on these things. I don't know. I think that this governor is a lawyer's dream. He is just a lawyer's dream, a plaintiff's lawyer's dream, because there was protection in place. There is a CDC guideline. There are states of emergency. There is adequate scientific evidence to establish that masks save lives. And this idiot, capital I idiot, likes to sign his name a lot is the best that I can tell. But this idiot has placed all of the kids in Virginia at risk. And to me, that's unconscionable. And I hope all of my legal brothers and sisters out there sue the hell out of him.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna read a quote from Youngkins. This is what it said in the executive order. There is no greater priority than the health and welfare of Virginia's children. Under Virginia law, parents, not the government, have the fundamental right to make decisions concerning the care of their children. And then Youngkin also states, school districts will be able to keep mask recommendations in place, but parents can choose not to follow them. Now, the big debate is who can actually put the mandate into place. Now, Governor Youngkin himself, he is for vaccines and he's for masks, but he's against any type of mandate forcing people to wear them or people to take the vaccine. So even though he supports people getting masks, wearing masks, and getting vaccines, he's against the mandate. Do you think that people being against the mandate is going to be detrimental to us coming out of COVID and coming out of the Omicron variant? Wade, we'll go to you first.
So, I mean, at this point, I don't. Let's throw some facts out there for a minute, all right? So, at this point, I don't think it's going to really matter because there's so many people that are still not vaccinated. There's so many people still not wearing masks that did you really do anything devastating by making this an option or removing it? Will that actually affect anything? Yeah, it'll affect the teachers. It'll affect the other kids because we all know kids all the way up and through high school are all germ breeding little snot nose running during the winter. They just pass it around like they lick and touch everything. Exactly. Each other, the walls, tables, toilets. I mean, all sorts of stuff. But do we think that this will actually have a physical impact on the COVID levels? I'm not sure, and I don't think so because it doesn't really matter in the fact that they leave school and they either wear a mask or they don't. Their parents either do or they don't. So I'm not sure we will see a number in that. What I think we'll see more of is teachers having an issue with it. It's really no different than OSHA saying, okay, from now on you can choose whether or not you want to wear a fall system when you're, 3 stories up on a roof.
So I want to go back to what Sean said. And I completely agree with Sean. I think the best thing at the moment would go back to primarily having virtual learning. Now, I know there's some kids in situations where they're very low income and it's not a possibility. And I think if we have the majority of kids doing at-home virtual learning and there are certain satellite spots set up for kids who just can't do it, I think that would greatly stop the spread of the Omicron variant. So, Dr. Tracy, what are your thoughts about the nation shifting to virtual learning again?
I have a bias towards virtual learning. I got my doctorate through a program that was live, but it was online. And I went to classes with people all over the world, and it was a great experience. One of the things that bothers me about people's resistance to the online learning is that prior to COVID, prior to the pandemic, parents were sticking iPads and iPhones in their kids' hands so that they would be entertained while they were doing things. Now, we have to sit them in front of a computer so they can pay attention to a teacher, and that's a problem. And I'm frustrated by what I think is the hypocrisy behind it. Now, I understand that it's hard. People have to be at home. They've got to supervise the children. The children have questions, and the younger kids, have a hard time sitting for long periods of time, but they don't have to. And that's the thing. They don't have to do that. There's ways to organize that day and to engage those kids so that they will they will do well in that environment. It requires an adjustment, like anything. I am concerned about these little ones getting sick. Very concerned. And I think that to the point of what Wade was talking about, I think that it will be detrimental to not have the masks. At least you had a fighting chance before. Now the teachers are prohibited from enforcing anything, and that's a problem. Before they had to, now they don't. And so I think that one of the responsibilities of a governor is to look out for their citizens. There's this thing called parens patriae power, which is police power of this state, and their job is to look after people and to make sure that they're safe and they're healthy. And there's just simply nothing that supports removing masks or giving people the choice not to wear them. There's nothing. There's no legal justification for it. There's no scientific justification for it. I mean, I challenge the governor to go get surgery, and have his surgeon choose whether they're going to have a mask on or not while they're operating. I mean, it's just so irrational and has become such a political performance.
So we're going to go to the comments, and then I'm going to have a question that I'm going to ask you guys. But let's go ahead and go to the comments first. So let's go ahead and pull up that first comment.
There you go.
So Lindsay says, the youngest said today he's not going to school without his mask. He prefers it. Philip says, hi, everyone. Welcome back, Sean. Wade, I hope you're ready for some solid arguments against Dr. Tracy tonight.
That sounds like you're prejudging.
Lindsay says, in 2 days, I've had 3 different emails about the staff from his school that are positive. Yep. Amanda says, what an asinine thought process to let people choose masks. Your mask only protects those around you, not yourself. You need others to protect yourself. We let people decide what they were going to do on their options, but now look, LOL. And then Amanda also says, I agree with Sean with the virtual schooling. This variant is truly crazy. That's a point for Sean. Philip says, way to go, Wade. Lindsay says he's in junior high with multiple classes. It's insane to remove the mask mandate in schools, especially. Lindsay also says he's a walking contradiction. Philip says that's the results of an election. I hope the Democrats learned from this governor nonsense. They haven't. Lindsay says, if the training and investment were available to all educational institutions and not just the private sector, virtual learning can be extremely beneficial, if not revolutionary. I definitely agree with Lindsay there. Philip says, I hope that parents will have some common sense and have their kids wear a mask. But working in Virginia for 14 years, I know that they will follow the governor wish. Amanda says, parents in New Jersey are trying to stop our mask mandate, which doesn't make any sense. You want the kids to be safe? I agree with Tracy. That's a point for Dr. Tracy. All right, so here's my...
I stopped keeping points after the last 4 ass whoopings.
I just now. You get that chalkboard out.
It's out. I'm just not writing anything on it.
And then, do you want to read the comments from Smoke and Bacon?
Sure. So Las Vegas Luddite says, it seems that the science is completely different depending on what network one is watching.
Boom, that is completely true.
And he also says, my daughter has done virtual learning since before COVID. She's always been fine. She does her studies and goes to work in my wife's business. She's learned her 3 R's and has also learned to run a small business, and as an added bonus, has not murdered any classmates. I call that a win-win-win.
Do you guys remember? I don't know in your jurisdictions whether you have, like, if you saw the commercials about the virtual, like, learning academy, like out here in California, it's the virtual learning academy. But they were advertising for kids to go to school online as an alternative prior to COVID, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. I really struggle with that.
They were doing it in California. I know California offered virtual learning to kids. They had the option. All right, here's the question for you guys. Is the government, and this is all the government, so we can say the governor of Virginia, we can say President Biden, this is everybody. In your humble opinion, because I know none of you guys on this show are humble, in your humble opinion, is the government taking the correct steps to keep the people safe from the Omicron variant? Who wants to go first? Wade, I see you shaking your head. Thoughts?
No. The government is taking steps based off of political buyout. So whoever sponsors that are on their jackets, those patches for giving them money, they're taking steps based off of that. And that was made perfectly clear when the CDC bowed to the airlines.
Sean?
Yeah, we're in a purely economic phase right now. And the contradiction between health and economics has hit a crashing point. They know if we do close down schools and go virtual one more time, that it could be the axe that hits the golden tree. And they're very concerned about that economically. What our economy would be like if we went down for periods of time again. And so they're making a judgmental decision based on actually people's health. I mean, so I find a high contradiction that they're actually trying to protect people when they're making a lot of different decisions that don't relate to health.
Dr. Tracy?
I think it's a more complex question. I think that they are doing what they feel they can do. Are they doing everything? Well, I don't think that they're doing everything, but you have to remember what President Biden walked into. Okay, when the government switches hands for administrations, there's the plum book. Okay, Trump ripped up the plum book and with all the jobs in it for the federal government and eliminated it. And he had no idea who was in what job doing what. And there were career officials that had been there for decades that left. I mean, he has had to rebuild a government. He has an entire population of people, a segment of this population that believe that ivermectin, which is an antifungal for used primarily in equestrian or with horses, when they have fungal infections in massive quantities, is somehow a treatment for COVID. They've got people taking borax baths to try to eliminate the vaccine that they were required to take for work, which causes them to burn their skin. I mean, there's a group of people in this country that have been subjected to mind control. And I think that, President Biden is doing what he can. The other piece of this is that they delegate authority to other people. And so, the CDC director today, as I understand it, came out and had an interview. It might have been the Washington Post. I'm trying to remember which one. I always get the Journal and the Post mixed up. I don't know why. That she agrees that she hasn't communicated well. And so I think that there's one of the things that we are seeing here is that we're seeing them take responsibility, which the last administration did not do. I can solve it and I can solve it alone. But I think that are they doing what they can and what they think they can enforce? I think they are. I do agree that this nonsense with the CDC and the airlines was a bunch of hooey, and I want to get to the bottom of that.
So, in my opinion, when we talk about this, when we talk about if it's the government, and when I say government right now, I'm talking about the federal government, the Biden administration. Is the Biden administration doing enough to keep people safe during the Omicron variant? And my answer is no, because I don't think the Biden administration is doing much of anything. I'll give them this. With the release of, and we'll talk about this later on this evening, but with the release of the free COVID testing that you can do at home, that anyone can go on to the United States Postal Service website, get that free testing, I think they did something there. But besides that, I don't think the Biden administration is doing enough, because I don't think the Biden administration is doing much of anything. Now, I know a lot of times when I say that, people want to compare it to the Trump administration, right? So when Trump was in office and dealing with COVID, I think Trump did a lot. I think he did a lot of the wrong things. I think he definitely steered us in the wrong direction, but he was doing something, even though I think the majority of it was wrong, except for Operation Warp Speed, which was something that should have been done. And now people won't even use the vaccines that came out during Warp Speed. However, the Biden administration looks to just be sitting on its hands. The Biden administration is not doing much of anything. And when they do something, it's purely 100% fueled by being lobbied by various industries. There is no reason why the CDC should have changed those recommendations to 5 days, except for economic reasons. I think it's going to be detrimental to the American population with these crazy recommendations. You have people now going into work sick because of these recommendations. People are catching Omicron left and right. They were catching it before, but now we're hitting all-time highs. I think the Biden administration is going to end up hurting the economy at the end of this because they're doing so much to not try to hurt the economy now. I think it's going to break. I think the supply chain is going to break down more. If we look at the United States, I think the coast, so the East Coast and the West Coast, they're going to do okay. But I think Middle America is going to suffer. I think there's going to be a complete breakdown of the supply chain. I think Omicron is going to spread like a wildfire through Middle America. And I think Middle America is going to have empty shelves and sick people and not even people working. I think it's going to be detrimental. I think it's going to end up hurting the economy more by what they're doing now to try and protect the economy.
So I agree with you, Mel, but I'm wondering, when do we start wearing our Mad Max clothing?
I mean, it's coming.
At what point do we start strapping spikes to cars and blaring music rolling down the road? I mean, so, because I mean, that's a pretty grim post-apocalyptic view of what's coming, but it's true. It's what's coming.
But let me ask you this question. Okay, so if they put into place a mandate that you have to have a vaccine to get on a domestic airline, and they put in place, again, let's assume the Supreme Court doesn't undo it temporarily while it gets tried on the merits like they did with the OSHA vaccine enforcement, even though, they had simply no problem with keeping that stupid abortion law in place in Texas. So the hypocrisy there is just crazy. But I think that the question that I have for you is so they put the mandates in place, they put mask mandates in place, they have people stay at home. Okay, that's not going to play with a vast majority of these folks out there that are eating the ivermectin. Okay, so I don't know what percentage of the population that really is. I mean, I really don't know. But so that percentage of the population is a little volatile. And the other percentage of the population, this other section of the population, which is I would sort of consider, the Democratic wing, that they're obviously not happy about this. How you're never going to make everybody 100% happy. You're never going to be able to lead cats, right? So what do you do if you're the president?
I mean, you said it. Domestic flights, international flights, you have to be vaccinated. Boom, right there. That's one thing. But I think we even got past the point of vaccines now.
Vaccines aren't even part of this argument anymore.
It's not. I don't even think. I think everyone should be vaccinated.
Masks are not part of this argument anymore. Yeah, we're literally like, I don't know, 1,200 Omicron confirmed cases before we start putting people on Leaper Island. I mean, it's literally, we're at that point.
The vaccine matters. The vaccine matters because it keeps you most of the time out of the hospital. Although I have to say I've got a problem with the CDC director, again, because of her comments about people with comorbidities, people who have disabilities, and her she said it was great that the data coming back was showing that the people who were being hospitalized that were vaccinated were people who were disabled. That didn't play well. That's why she had to do some cleanup this week. But again, I ask, I don't understand. Like, if all of those things would be put in place, don't you think that would start a civil war? Don't you think that there'd be a whole lot of people, taken to the streets with their guns? I mean,
no. Do you know why?
They're too sick?
No, because there's nobody actually in charge of this monkey show. The last person we had in charge of this monkey show was accused of creating a terrorist act on U.S. soil. Now we got somebody who doesn't even know where he is most of the time, let alone how to do anything else, that says, confirmed on video, I do not believe drunk driving is a felony, or that I don't actually work for you. Things like that. We don't have anybody leading this monkey show. So what happens when you don't have leadership?
Yeah, the Dems, this is the problem for the Dems. They're kind of like the Chicago Cubs. Years ago, where, Wade's can laugh about that. Like, everybody thought they could win the pennant, man. And they thought they could really, and they get to the game and they get to the top, and man, everybody still thinks they're losers. And, what happened here with the Dems is just shocking. You can literally take control of everything and look like a loser. It's just shocking to me that we're in that situation. That's how I feel about it. Because I feel like they really haven't taken the reins and taken the control they could when they could. And they have basically two individuals that act more like the president than the president does.
No.
And nix everything every agenda they have. And they're all in, of course, conservative states, so it seems like, they're double agents. And, so it seems kind of obvious to me, this is where we're coming in the midterms. They're going to argue with us that we need to put more Democrats in there so that we can actually get an agenda across. And then the GOP is going to argue that you've done a really horrible job and you should let us have a try because you've done such a horrible job. So we're going to see which one of these scenarios win.
Look, I'd rather somebody just do something, right, wrong, or indifferent. But when nobody's doing anything,
no. We don't need another wrong.
Look, right or wrong or indifferent, somebody at least stepped forward and did something.
We have Trump who did wrong. We have Biden who does nothing.
Yeah, if he was to come online and say, "Look, everybody, here's what we're going to do. We, starting tomorrow, are all going to eat Subway sandwiches every day for a month, and it'll protect you against Omicron." Somebody would still complain it's not Jimmy John's.
Here's the problem you have is that he only has so much legal authority. All the rights and the powers that weren't enumerated in the Constitution are left to the states. And so he knows what his guardrails are. There's certain things he can do. He believed that he could have OSHA enforce a vaccine mandate designed to keep people safe based on science. And the Supreme Court said, no. So what we're used to is a clown who doesn't know anything about how the government works, which is not the president that we have now. We're used to this fool, President Trump, going in and just doing whatever he wants. And what happened? He went to the courts. They ended up going to the courts. And every single thing that he did almost was overturned. That sent us into chaos. We've seen that before, but the problem is that we've normalized this behavior, that we want to see action. Got to see action. We've normalized it.
I want to see something.
That's not how normal government works. We are conditioned to see
we are not in normal times.
Yeah.
We are not in normal times. We are not in normal actions. Do something. Say, look, I tried. This asshole blocked me. Do something. You're so fond of telling everybody what you're not going to do. Tell me something you're going to do and get blocked. I'm okay with that.
Something.
They flipped the Supreme Court, so I don't know what you're talking about. They flipped the entire Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to nix anything Biden even puts up to put that. So he has executive orders. He should be acting on every executive order that he can do. And he should not be apologetic about it because Trump certainly would not have been apologetic about putting executive orders in place.
So I'm going to say
this. That power.
Wait. I'm going to say this. I respect Republicans so much, Republican politicians, because Republican politicians play to win. At the end of the day, they set their focus and they're going to play to win. And they're going to do what they need to do to win. And they're going to get their policies in place. Doesn't even matter whether it's going to go to the courts or not. They will fight it to the end. They will look at Trump fighting to the end over the biggest nonsense.
Right, wrong, or indifferent.
They don't even have a platform.
Republicans play to win. They don't consider losing. They come in, they play to win. Democrats don't play to win. Democrats come in, politicians. They come in and they want to color within the lines. That's all they want to do.
They never given coloring books when they were kids, and you could tell.
But that's all they want to do. They want to come in, they want to color in the lines. They're coloring within the lines. Republicans are coming in to win, and Democrats are coloring the line. It's like, since we're going to sports, let's go to high school sports, right? You get the division champions, who are the Republicans, and they play against varsity division champions. They're going to state everything. And you put them against that one high school where they're like, yeah, guys, we're all going to have fun. And you put them together to play, even though The little high school is like they have the right spirit and they want to play. They're going to get crushed every single time because they're going up against opponents who will not lose. They are in it to win. So even when Democrats get a little bit of a lead, even when Democrats come in like, oh yeah, we won because we played to the hearts of the people, they're still going to get crushed because they don't have a winner's mentality. They want to stay there coloring the lines and sit there and do nothing when they're playing against a team that is there to crush them and win at any cost. So
you just gave an entire speech that I can sum up in this. The Dems have rolled over and played dead because there's no use in fighting.
That's not true. They're fighting.
That's exactly what she just said.
I understood what she said. It's not true, though. I mean, they have
progressives are fighting. There's just not enough of them, and they don't have any power.
They have two people who are a albatross around the Democratic Party, Sinema and Manchin. And there's nothing that you can do to make them stop doing what they're doing. We've had people like this before. Look at what McConnell did to Merrick Garland. Okay, so I think that you know, I understand what
that's
you're
a
saying.
perfect example. Actually, that's a perfect example. That is a perfect example. When Democrats are trying to put someone on the Supreme Court, they just rolled over. When Republicans packed the Supreme Court, Democrats are like, okay, we're going to let them through. No fights.
What were they supposed to do? Get into a fist fight?
I mean, no, they were supposed to go get their hair cut and their bellies rubbed, which is what they're doing.
I mean, let's be. I mean, I'm more independent probably than most in here. I'm like more of an independent than I am either a Democrat or a Republican. I'm more of an independent thinker, and I see both views. I don't agree with either views on both sides sometimes, but the Dems' big weakness, really, the Dems' big weakness that I've seen over the years is that in conservative states, they play both rails. And when they play both rails and they do take power in those conservative states that are Democratic, do elect Democrats with a D behind them, they're truly stuck there because they have to be like a 50 or 60-40 split about supporting conservative things in a conservative state. And that's where you're getting this issue of the reelection aspects of it. The progressive wing of the Democratic Party, I'm not sure if I totally agree with Mel that they're that weak. I think they're actually pretty strong. I don't think Biden could have won without them, to be honest with you. Biden didn't have a chance to win without the progressives. He didn't have even a remote chance to win without their ability to actually get out the vote. And the other problem that Democrats have is they fail over and over again to get the youth vote on their side. They're just destroying the youth vote right now, unbelievably. The 18 to 24 years old that are going to be the 18 to 24 year olds in this upcoming presidential and midterm election are totally turned off. They're not even going to participate. And the other part of that, which Mel has talked about it a lot, about the voting restriction laws that they're passing in 19 states. I'm not really concerned about that for the Democrats if they were actually getting out and recruiting the 50% of the people that do not vote and actually got them activated to vote, which is what AOC did. The reason she got a landslide election is because AOC was actually to bring out non-voters. And that's what Trump did. Trump brought out non-voters throughout the Midwest, throughout that area. And they seem to over and over again hand it like a golden goblin to the GOP over and over again when most of the country is not in favor of the conservative party. It doesn't lean conservative. Most of the country does not.
I blame a lot of this on the public. When Trump was in office, boy, we could galvanize our support for the Democrats, and we could go, we could sit in over at the Capitol, and we could get removed by police officers because we were concerned about our health care. Okay, but what happens is when there's a Democrat in the presidency, and when we have both houses, what happens is that people like to just think. I don't want to say it's think negatively. They love to have something to bitch about. They love it. And so what happens is they start attacking themselves. And that's been the biggest problem for the Democrats at recent. So, they're not going to the representatives. They're not sitting in anywhere. They're not trying to do anything. What are they doing? What are the people doing? They're sitting around complaining about the fact that the Democrats aren't doing anything and making allegations against the president. Okay, he's only one person, and I'm going to use a Tom Brady statement here. He can't play every position on the team. We're you know a government where we have separate powers. We have these three separate powers, and they're equal. And so I understand what Mel's saying. I think there's some validity to that. I think that there's some validity to what Sean's saying. But none of that changes what's happening here. And I don't think I understand what we're supposed to do. I don't know what the president is supposed to do if what he does is people run to the courts to try to overturn everything, and they overturn it. And we have to now wait because the courts have a lot of delay because of Omicron and because you can't have trials. And so things are delayed. And so the orders that he wanted to put in place have now been reversed temporarily. I mean, what is he supposed to do? It just looks like he's doing something, but he didn't do anything. What happened was what we had was an enemy that we can now hate. We can hate the judge that overturns that. I just think that I want to know what people want him to do, that he can do.
So I'm going to move away from that. I'm going to say one because we have to switch topics. I'm going to say this.
I got one first.
What happened?
I want to know how you use Tom Brady, the head of Deflategate, as an example.
So I grew up in New England, and I watch the Bucs now.
So what you're saying is the man who purposely ordered deflated footballs to give himself an advantage is the man you're going to go, let's go with him.
So moving away from that, we go to the election, let's say midterms. President Biden is going to cost Democrats the midterm election because he's going to cost them, the progressives. And he could have did one thing. One thing would have had the progressives on his side. Forget everything else. If he would have just canceled student loans, gave the student loan forgiveness, literally, Democrats would be winning midterm elections in every state that they're in. 100%. And that's what I'm saying. Democrats don't play to win. The playbook is right in front of them. They know how to keep the progressives on their side. They know how they can win. They know how they can get more seats so they can go and put through more legislation, more policy. And the playbook's right in front of them. Oh, what can we do to get this base happy that literally got us elected? Let's do the student loan forgiveness. And they just didn't do it. And he has the ability, he has the power to do it. He can do it with an executive order if he keeps it under a certain amount, but he's just not doing it. So that's when I say Democrats don't play to win. They have the arsenal. They have what they need to win. It's not even coming back to COVID, right? Because we're talking about COVID. But it's, so yeah. So
I'm going to agree with Amanda. I think that he should just give everybody a $10,000. I'm sorry for being, useless payoff, forgiveness payoff.
So let's go to the comments. Dr. Tracy, can you read the comments for me? And then Gia, do you want to put the comments up?
Yeah, Dr. Tracy, they had K-12 school here in New Jersey before COVID. It's all about money, Lindsay says. Lindsay also says, always about the money. Lindsay also says it's almost as if the government has started eating Tide Pods like teens were a few years back. They're salivating on stupidity because it makes them money. Amanda says, ever since COVID hit, it absolutely did impact economics. The world was shut down and it stopped businesses from making money. Most mom and pop shops couldn't survive even with PPP loans. Now individuals still can't afford to stay home and not bring in money while quarantined positive for COVID. Joanna says, how are they keeping us safe when every week they're changing the narrative? We don't know what to believe anymore. Amanda says, I agree with Mel, a point for Mel. I think quarantine should still be 14 days, especially with Omicron. Philip says, I didn't understand the 5-day recommendation. That's crazy. Lindsay says, I said it last night. It's the beginning of another Dust Bowl depression type era. Amanda says, absolutely, this is depression material. She also says, and I was discussing with my husband last night that if Omicron came out as the original strain before vaccines, do you think it would have been worse death-wise?
It never would have.
Philip says, OMG, I heard a radio talk show host who is Republican saying that he would rather give his life rather than the economy going bad. Sorry, I forgot his name.
And then we're going to jump down to some other, but read this last one.
Joanna, yes. She says, yes, but we do need to see some serious action. So I think that was a point for me.
No, that was in regards to Joe Biden getting off his ass and doing something.
So let me read a couple more comments. And we're going to pick 3 from Smoke and Bacon. Philip says, Dem has no backbones. I agree with what Al Franklin did, but the Dem made him resign and pushed him out, and the Republicans did the same thing, and they kept their representative. That's crazy. Let's see. So...
That was me. It wasn't Mel.
So Amanda says, I'll even take 10K forgiveness at this point. I don't know who's commenting under my... That's not...
That was me. I told you this earlier.
Oh, you're commenting? Oh, okay. I was like, oh my gosh, who's commenting under my name?
Man, they went away from drones and straight brought the hacker.
Like, oh man, they're really hacking me tonight. Because
I have all this functionality on this side. I have no idea why I've got it. It's good.
Amanda says, but even if they forgive them, we'll still have to pay taxes, so it's really free. It'll bring a lot of relief. Dems right now seem to be all bark, no bite. And Joanna says, Democrats are very discouraged now. We are hoping for a change, and there's no change. Next election is going to be bad. It is going to be bad. You want to read 3 from Smoke and Bacon, then we're going to jump to the next topic.
Sure. Las Vegas says the Dems are too busy trying to tie racism to everything. It's tiresome to most of us. He also says this highlights another problem. The Supreme Court is not supposed to be a political body. They rule on what the law is, not on what powerful people wish it to be. And then he also says, wrong, Sean. My daughters are both voting Democrat. Breaks my soul.
Breaks my soul.
Okay, so moving on, we're still talking about masks. We're still talking about COVID because that is the era that we're in. So right now, with mask mandates, we are still debating it. We are still debating masks. Now, even at work, people are going back and forth whether they should wear masks. And the Supreme Court justices are no different. Now, we know that Justice Sotomayor has diabetes. And because of this, she is at high risk for COVID. And if she gets COVID, it can be very devastating to her because she has a pre-existing condition. Prior to Omicron taking over the country, she was the only justice on the bench wearing a mask. But now, because Omicron came in and hit like a lightning bolt, we're seeing that all the justices are now wearing masks because Chief Justice Roberts asked them to. All but one. Justice Gorsuch, I always say his name wrong, guys. I apologize. I have a
Gorsuch.
I always say it wrong. Gorsuch has decided that he is going to refuse. He is going to refuse to wear a mask on the bench, thus forcing Justice Sotomayor to take and do her job, listen to cases all from her chamber. So, Sean, what are your thoughts about Gorsuch?
Yeah, it is totally, it's politicization of the court. And it's not supposed to be that way. Just like to mention, the court's not supposed to be a political entity. Just like the military is not supposed to be politicized. Neither should the Supreme Court, but it has become that way. It's a very sad development in our society that it becomes that way. And so, they're getting, news and media and all kinds of support. So because they go against the trend and now everybody's talking about them, so I don't know where you learned that from. Gosh, where do you learn that from? Yeah, it's sad. It's pretty sad.
Yeah. Dr. Tracy.
Oh, the Supreme Court has always been political. I think that we remember things incorrectly. Justice Warren used to strike deals with people and negotiate deals with the justices to get these decisions like Brown v. Board of Education. I think that there is a I think that yes, the law is what it is, but there's a whole lot of interpretation that goes into it. And people say they're strict constructionists or textualists. No, they're not. Okay, they're not. They're all reading things into it, and it's they're all in the high and mighty about it. I am livid with Justice Gorsuch. To me, if I had seen that behavior and I was investigating an allegation against Gorsuch as a investigator in a workplace, I'd make a finding. He's harassing Sotomayor. He's making her have to sit in her chambers and to participate in things by sort of like remote and also by telephone. The conferences she's had to do by telephone, and it is. She is somebody who takes issue with the things that he's decided or he's said and written, and so to me, I feel like this is sort of insidious harassment of this woman, and I think that Roberts needs to step up and do something about it. He has control over that.
Wade?
So, while I believe in masks and I believe in vaccines, I also believe it's people's rights to choose if they do it or not, if they understand the consequences. If your employer said you have to wear a mask to come to work from now on, otherwise you have to work from home and participate remotely, would that be such an outrage?
So I have a question for you. And I like to pair these two topics together. I paired them together earlier with one of the topics, right? We talked about Virginia, and many people are up in arms that the governor is removing the mask mandates from schools. But at the same token, Gorsuch is deciding not to wear a mask. They're giving him the choice, but he's deciding. But it seems as though your opinion varies between the two instances.
Yes.
Why?
Because children are the responsibility of their parents. Now, with that being said, their parents can be dumb or they can be smart or they can be in between. Doesn't matter. Children are the responsibility of their parents. They are not the responsibility of the state or somebody else. We're talking about a grown adult that's at work. So my question still stands. If you went to work and said, I'm not going to do this, and they said, okay, if you're not going to do this, you need to go do that, is it such a big deal?
Anyone want to respond to that?
I'm trying. So if you have to wear a mask, and if you don't, then you have to stay home. Is that what you're saying, Wade?
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Except my situation is the reverse. I have to stay home because I can't ask someone what their vaccination status is. So
if we have a Supreme Court member who says I'm not going to do something, and they say, okay, then you need to do this from your chamber. To me, that's no different.
Except that the thing is that they're not doing it to Gorsuch. They're doing it to Sotomayor, and Sotomayor has rights as a disabled, in essence, employee of the federal government, as a justice.
So are you saying that she should be using the rights of accommodation that you talked about the other night to say I don't need to do this and I can sit on the bench?
Yes, but it's more complicated because she is, in essence, being accommodated by Justice Roberts by allowing her to remain in chambers and allowing her to participate. But she's also being isolated, and she's not able to participate in the same ways. While Gorsuch gets to go around doing whatever he wants and exposing the other justices potentially. And so, he is acting like a Class A bully. He's acting like somebody who is. Engaging in harassment. I mean, he sits right next to her, okay, on the bench. He literally sits right next to her. So, when you know that she has diabetes, this is no secret, and she's at high risk for contracting COVID, and you're not doing something about it, and you're not protecting this employee from that person, it's Roberts' responsibility to protect Sotomayor and to hold Gorsuch accountable.
I mean, what he's doing is elevating individual rights at the top of this of the actual legal, the top of the spear of the legal area. So that's the Supreme Court. I mean, it's the top of the spear. You know, you don't get any higher legal authority than the Supreme Court. And by elevating it to that level, he's playing a purely, political theater game with the Supreme Court. And I think that's even a bigger problem than what he's doing with what Dr. Tracy's saying. I think that's even a bigger problem because it is historically damning and damaging to the Supreme Court to do that under a national emergency. Like we were declared national emergency. So everything that's within that preview should be guided at the federal level by all federal employees. And if not, then, there should be consequences. There should be consequences for that.
So are you saying that by him choosing his personal view of not wearing a mask, that could have ramifications down the line because the Supreme Court allowed this?
I'll give you a little story. There's this famous paparazzi who used to always call me Jackie O. We made a Netflix series about him. And he got taken to court by Jackie O because he would follow He found out where she lived and she'd follow her everywhere and take photos of her with her kids. And she felt their kids were being harassed. So they go into federal court. It's a famous court case. There's a court case about privacy, right? And about rights and about the photographer to do their job. This is a different position. He is in federal government with federal employment, federal benefits, and a federal job. If I was in the Air Force and I did that and my superior said, you cannot do that because that is not what Spirit said, I am going to be in serious trouble. I could get an Article 15. I could get kicked out. I could go into all kinds of legal matters within the military. And so he's acting as if he's outside the military realm, which would be the same thing. He's a federal employee. And they are people with federal benefits and federal jobs and federal income. So they have to follow the federal guidelines. And they can't go outside of that and say that they don't have consequences. I think he has to have consequences.
The only way to get rid of a Supreme Court justice would be to impeach and remove. They're political appointees for life. So I think that's part of the issue is there's a certain amount of things that he can do, Roberts can do. He is technically not his supervisor. They each have an equal vote. And he handles the administrative matters of the court. But I think that he, like Biden, feels there's only so much that he can do.
So what you just said is she can tell him to screw off and go sit on the bench if she wanted to, and it would be equal across the board. There's nothing that he could do about it or Roberts could do about it or anybody else.
At the end of the day, they could put a policy in place saying until Omicron passes, you have to be masked up on the bench.
And he did.
To be in chamber.
Right. But right now,
there was no policy.
There's no policy. But right now, this guy who doesn't have a leadership role over this individual, if they're all equal, has told her she has to sit in chambers because I'm not going to wear a mask. She could, in turn, because they're at the same level, say, screw you, I'm sitting on the bench.
But no, she's not sitting on the bench because of her health.
That's right. But I'm saying she could, though, equally, because there's no leadership roles.
Right. She'd be placing herself at risk.
Right. But she could.
I think the reverse should happen. He should be isolated.
He should be isolated.
He should be isolated from making that choice when all the other people could be under that, because we are under a federal health client. We're under a federal emergency based on health. How can the Supreme Court not follow that? He should be isolated, period.
And that's my point. If he has no real leadership authority over her and has sent her to her room, for lack of a better term, then she could turn around and send him to his room.
And I agree, she should.
I think that's what needs to be done. And again, at this moment, they have the choice because it wasn't a policy, it was an ask. Chief Justice Roberts asked everyone because he respects his colleagues.
And at the same time, Roberts could send them both to their rooms, but he's not doing that either.
Now, I'd have to check on this, but I think that the Supreme Court, when it comes to rules, that has to come through Congress. I don't think that they can set their own rules. So when you say policy, I hear rule. He can ask, and that's the most that he can do.
That's the most that he can do. I just want to make sure that people know that right now, because I feel like when the story broke, most people were like, "Oh, it's a policy." So what? No, this was an ask.
And that's why I'm trying to figure out this leadership hierarchy, because if they're all the same, then any one of them could do something about it.
They have an age-old problem that organizations have, which is a cultural problem. They've always operated as a equal vote. Each of us have an equal vote, and then there's one person who's responsible for writing the opinions unless assigned to other people based on the voting, and also handling the sort of the minutia of administrative tasks. And that's the way they've always operated. But again, our norms are being challenged by difficult circumstances. And now we have to figure out what to do. And there isn't any guardrail to help them figure that out. And, you're flying the airplane while you're building it.
So what we're seeing right now is the way that America is set up is not working. And usually what happens when America doesn't work is we make changes. That's why we have amendments, right? We make changes to the Constitution. We change the way that America works. But because we're so divided, because we can't even come together like, hey, America's not working, let's try and fix this. It's America's not working, it's your fault. And then the other side saying America's not working, it's your fault. We're stuck in this conundrum that we're going to end up imploding. It's not working. America's not working right now. And if we continue to listen to the experts, right? I've been saying this before the experts started saying it. I'm really glad that that we're starting to line up. Is that really America's in a backsliding democracy? We're moving further and further away from a democracy, and we're probably moving towards fascism. I know a lot of people are saying communism, but I don't see that happening. Just the way I think it's just going to be more authoritarian, and we're going to have a leader, and it's going to be a guise of democracy. But it comes to little issues like this, where in the Supreme Court, we're seeing that, again, it's not working. We're under the emergency orders, but it's still not working. And even though it's something so simple as, hey, buddy, put your mask on so your colleague doesn't die. And there's no repercussions for it because where does the policy come in place? Who's going to put the policy in place? I just think I'm rambling right now, but I just think it just shows again that America's just not working at the moment. So
Look,
I don't see fascism coming. I see where we're at right now is democracy ended many years ago in the United States, and we entered into a courtocracy. And what happened is the reason that things don't make sense to the average Joe out there and the average person out there is because they do make sense to the corporate sector. The corporate sector is making money hand over fist, unbelievable amount of money during the pandemic. I think the banks made 4 times during the pandemic that they made prior to that, just JP Morgan itself. So, we can tell who's winning. It ain't the average Joe who's winning, but, there's somebody winning big. And they're going to hide that up with all this kind of hoo-ha BS storylines that keep dividing us while somebody's stealing our lunch on a daily basis. The bullies over there stealing our lunch, making us pay double for meat and food, making us pay double for gas, making us pay double for rent. And then on the top of that, they say, it's just the way it is. It's the system's breaking down. And so you got to pay. You, the average Joe, need to pay. You need to pay up. It's just the way it is, just because the corporate sector over here made huge profits. Well, we can't regulate them. We have no ability to regulate. We can't regulate Supreme Court. We can't regulate corporations. Oh my God. We can't do that. We can't actually say they would pay their fair share and then put that to social services and healthcare and all these other things, which the progressive wing wanted, and Biden has shot down continuously. The ability to do that, which the Republican Party goes, oh no, that's a shift of wealth from the rich to the poor. Oh, then that would be socialism. The big word socialism, right? But meanwhile, they're making just massive profits while the average person over there is concerned about whether or not they keep their house, keep their car, and they're working sick. I mean, that's why it's not working. It's not working because we're headed to fascism. It's not working because we're not a democracy. We're a courtocracy.
We're a democratic republic. And so we have to rely on our representatives to engage in legislation.
And they're all bought.
If they're not bought. Yeah.
And they're all bots.
I really want to put a law into place where all politicians have to wear a jacket like in NASCAR. You got to have the patches of who bought you on there, who supported you. That way we know who we're getting screwed by.
I mean, we already know this week.
Right.
Let's go to the comments. So Lindsay says, everyone's singing with me now. Omicron came in like a wrecking ball. I was going to sing that one. Let's go to the next comment. And then Amanda says, if you have to take your hat off in court, how come they can't mandate mask? Lindsay says, damn, they're onto her again. Not this time. This time was my own fault. Philip agrees with Dr. Tracy. Joanna says, why isn't he forced to sit in his chamber? Why should she be the one to sit out? It makes no sense. Amanda says, people's right to choose ended when it became a global pandemic with lives at risk every day.
That's a dangerous position.
Joanna says, I see it as disrespect. Amanda says, parents are the responsibility of their parents until the parents neglect them. Medical neglect is a true thing. Social workers can step in even though parents are the technical deciding factor. Joanna says, okay, he can decide not to wear a mask. I don't have an issue with that, but his ass should be remote. Amanda says, if he refused to wear the mask, then he should be in the chamber, not Sotomayor. And again, I think we all agree with that. It's just no way to enforce it.
Actually, there is. How? There's 9 of them. They can vote themselves. You're an asshole. Go sit in your office.
So Amanda says 100 agree with Dr. Tracy, 100% Dr. Tracy from Joanna. Lindsay said 100% Sean.
You counting those, right, Sean? You counting them all?
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, Philip is counting them all, just so you know.
Okay, good. Philip,
Lindsay says in Doc 2. Joanna says a very dangerous game. Amanda says yes, Sean. That's a point for Sean. Philip says wait is consideration for your fellow workers. That is yes, he has the right not to wear a mask. And in my opinion, that's not fair to her colleagues. Amanda says the military doesn't ask people if they want vaccines. You just show up and they pump you with all of them. So why not all federal entities be treated the same? Pump up. Joanna says 100%, 100% Sean. Amanda says 100% agree. Sean. Get it, Sean tonight. Lindsay says the Supreme Court needs to get their shot together and set up the precedent for all being the top of the legal food chain. Yes, I know that's what you meant. Lindsay says we're heading towards a dictatorship. Amanda says, but this is why we need mask mandate because people can't be trusted to make the best possible decision.
Ooh, another dangerous statement.
I mean,
it's not wrong, but it's a dangerous statement. Because at what point does someone determine what is best and who isn't there, and what else are they going to determine? You aren't doing the best thing. We're going to make you do this. Where does the line?
I mean, that already happens. There's 5150s. People get put in, mental obstacles. Yep. So there's already there's a line already drawn. So, Joanna says the pandemic is big money, and it is. Amanda says, can the senators be medieval times where at least we get meals with the show?
Yes. That's how we're going to settle disputes and create laws now. I got a law that says this. I got a law that says this. They're fighting each other. We go to the court. Yes.
He wants the Coliseum and the Lions.
No. I just
Philip says
yes,
ask Governor.
The ass whooping.
All right, pick 3 comments from Smoke and Bacon and read them, and then we're going to move on to the next topic.
All right, I'm going to pick one comment that Dr. Tracy is going to want to respond to, but I'm going to ask that she waits until I get done with all 3.
Okay.
So the first one is why does Dr. Tracy have to stay home because of someone else's vaccination status? The science says vaccination does not prevent the spread, only lessens the impact. Does the Supreme Court have the power to police themselves? And I think what I learned in history class is that the original government and constitution were for protecting businesses, and they added the Bill of Rights because they realized they forgot the people or something along those lines. So 3 comments. The first one to you, Dr. Tracy.
So Dr. Tracy responds to the first one, then we're going to move to the next conversation.
Yeah, so the issue is that all employees have been returned to work, and so either I go to work and I have to interact with people, and I can't ask them what their vaccination status is, so I can refuse to meet with them, and and manage my safety. And so the only other option is to engage in a request for remote work. And so I work from home because it's protected health information purportedly. Vaccination status, and even though as an employee and an agent of the organization, I can't ask for that information.
You didn't answer the question.
She can't. She has to stay home, and she'll get sick.
Yeah, and so the second one is the sign says vaccination does not prevent the spread, only lessens the impact. Actually, because the body kills it off, because it's primed to do that, it actually does in some ways lessen the spread, because you're not as sick for as long.
All right, so we're going to jump to the next topic. This is going to be rapid fire, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. But the January 6th House Committee has issued subpoenas. Now, we have seen them for the past couple of weeks ask people to come in and testify about what happened prior to, at the January 6th insurrection, and after. But now we're in a situation where they're getting their subpoenas ready again. So the most famous of the people they subpoenaed is Rudy Giuliani. Now, they also subpoenaed what people are calling Trump's allies, other allies as well, and that is Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, and Boris Epstein. So what do you guys think about these subpoenas coming in? And actually, before I go to it, they're subpoenaing these people because they believe that they actively promoted claims of election fraud on behalf of former President Trump in litigation and public appearances. So, Wayne, we'll go to you first. What do you think about these subpoenas?
We knew it was going to happen. They asked these people to volunteer to come in and talk. They said, screw you, which was their right. Now they get subpoenaed. Now they have to show up and answer. So, I mean, I think the program we have in place is working currently.
Slowly,
but it's working. They said, screw you. We said, we'll subpoena you. They said, okay, we subpoena you. Now they have to show up. That's our system. That section right there is working. I'm not going to say it's working before or after that, but that little section is working.
Dr. Tracy, quick fire.
I love a subpoena, and I think what they should do is they should be flashing their faces up into the night sky with music like the Hunger Games. I think that'd be great.
Sean?
Yeah, give them cake and circus. This is the circus part.
It is the circus part. So I'm gonna add this into it. I think the subpoenas are great. Out of the four, I don't know if any of them will actually show up, and that's just gonna make the process go even longer because it's a committee. What's going to happen? And again, this is just a prediction I'm making. They're going to be subpoenaed. They're going to say no, we're not coming in, and then they're going to hold them in contempt of court. But they have to send it over to the DOJ because again, it's a House committee hearing, and then the DOJ is going to have to make the decision whether they're going to hold them in contempt of court, right? Contempt of Congress. So I think I think we're on the right track, but the process is going to move very, very, very slow. Anyone want to add to that before we go to the next rapid fire? Perfect.
I'll give it to like 2028, something like that. Somewhere in 2028, we'll know something.
Exactly.
They've subpoenaed these people. All right, they've already said they aren't coming in once now. Now let's go to the next step. They say, I'm not coming still. You can't make me. What's the next step?
Here's the next step. You win the election, and then all of it goes bye-bye.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, that's all they have to do.
That's all they have to do. Yeah, it all goes bye-bye. You win the
all
election,
they have to do is drag it out till 2024 and win the election.
That's it. That's the plan.
But seriously, though, what is the next step, Dr. Tracy? If I'm subpoenaed and I say I ain't doing it, you can't make me.
So remember, in Congress, this is not court. This is a House committee, so it's different. But go ahead and answer, Dr.
House committee refers it, takes a vote, refers it out to the House for a vote on whether they should refer to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution for criminal contempt of a subpoena. And then it goes to the Department of Justice to handle that process, which does take time, to put it in front of a grand jury to get a true bill returned so that they can indict the representative and or whomever Giuliani, for example, and have him try his case in court.
So it will take X amount of time from the time I say I ain't doing it till the time the cops show up to arrest me.
They're not going to arrest you.
Well, I'm just saying, guesstimate that time.
So I'm going to give Sean a point because Sean made the greatest point. All they have to do is stretch it out to the next election. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're doing.
I'll give it up to this. I'm like, all the descendants of Nixon right now are going, man, if we would just did what Trump did, we would still be in office.
They would.
You know, man, we actually had ethics. Wow.
These
we got Joe, man, you know.
These aren't multi-day trials.
Nixon really did a great favor to the GOP. He showed him the path for the future. And Trump goes, man, I'm not going to do what Nixon did. I'm just going to say I didn't do it. Prove it.
These aren't multi-day trials, though. These aren't. I know you guys are saying they're going to drag it out, but 2 years, they don't have. These aren't multi-day trials. These are quick trials about whether you should be required to show up for a subpoena.
Well, here's the thing: it has to go through so many different processes, right? And by the time we get to midterms, is the House going to look the same?
It's about 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks to get a grand jury indictment.
So you're telling me if I say no, if I'm Rudy Giuliani and I say I ain't coming in, you're telling me in 2 weeks it can go through that entire process you described, go through the Department of Justice, and force me to come in?
No, it can. Once the Department of Justice receives it, it takes about 2 weeks to put it in front of a grand jury.
So how long to get it to that point after I say no?
Up to the speaker, or it's up to the speaker of the House.
It's going to take months. It's going to take years because you have to remember, it's not one person. It's almost every single person they're subpoenaing. They're saying no.
Right. So you're saying that just by me saying no is enough to drag it out till the election in 2024?
When I was practicing law, I got subpoenaed in a case. Now, I had a right to assert privilege on behalf of my dead client, and I did. In fact, I had an obligation to. That trial took exactly an hour.
It's not a court case.
It's how dragged out to it.
It's dragged out because it's a House committee case. Because they're going to put the subpoena, they're going to say no, and there's still a lot of different processes that it has to go through before it even gets to the DOJ.
I respectfully disagree with you, Mel. What happens is it happens very quickly, and it has happened very quickly, at least quickly from my perspective. And then what happens is it takes a very short period of time for them to do that. They've already sent several of them over, and then it takes about 2 weeks, or so, to get put in front of the grand jury. Complicated.
No. Do you know when? And I pulled this up. So remember, last year, Steve Bannon was put. When was it? Was in the fall. It was October that Steve Bannon said no, he wasn't going to be going for the subpoena, right?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the dates. I'm not going to say yes or no.
Do you know when his trial is?
Okay, you're saying the trial, and what I am saying.
But that's what I'm saying. Nothing's going to happen. That's why they're dragging it on. The trial is set for July 18th. So from the time they asked him, not even subpoenaed him. So from the time they asked Bannon if he would come, said no. Then they subpoenaed him, said no. He still hasn't spoken to Congress, and his trial is not till July 18th.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, he's not going to speak to Congress. It's a trial of why you're not answering, right?
Exactly. So
okay. What I'm saying is that, it's not until July. Who cares? Guess what? The clerk could have very well said, we got a whole bunch of these, Judge, coming down the line. And so, let's take this day and schedule it for that, keep that open. And so we're going to bring them in one at a time, and we're going to have these trials that are not going to be long. Trust me.
But that's what I'm saying. The whole process is long. And then by the time we get to the midterm election, none of it's going to matter.
Because what you're saying is the process. What we're saying is the process won't be complete. So they don't have to physically drag it out. At this point, all they have to do is say no. Because how long it's going to take to get to that trial through the processes, it'll already be midterms, or it'll already be the next election. And then the next people, when they win, they'll just make it go away. So it's from the time they request someone to speak
to the time that they actually get their trial, it's enough to drag it out. They're playing the long game.
And how long was that guy been waiting now?
So I think I don't have the exact date. I think they subpoenaed him in the fall. It was either it was the fall. So
Fall
it was
of 2020?
2021.
So somewhere in the fall of 2021 to the summer is what it took. So let's just say
so his trial, Bannon's trial, is not until July 18th, which means all the information they want to get from Bannon, they're not gonna get. And by the time we get to midterms, it's not gonna matter because again, you have to take that because now you're subpoenaing Giuliani. So from Giuliani, it's going to take about the same amount of time if Giuliani says no to subpoena. We don't know if he's going to say no or not yet. But if Giuliani says no, that's like, what, a good 10 months?
Yeah, somewhere between 6 to 10 months for just one person. Before we can even get him into the quick trial that Dr. Tracy's talking about of an hour or two or whatever, saying whatever that happens there. And then they still haven't spoke to Congress about what Congress wants to hear from them, the reason they subpoenaed him, right?
Yep.
Okay.
They're playing the long game.
And guess what? If we send them over there and we do a mass quantity of these folks, that also plays favorably for the Democrats during the election because there's an entire group, I disagree with you, entire group of people that are obstructing process, and that can be utilized during the course of the election.
But I'm going to tell you this right now. The only thing that Democrats are going to see is they're still not getting anywhere. It's going to be people fed up that nothing is being done, that this happened, a year or two ago, and we're still battling this. Why can't they get stuff done?
We're having public hearings. They're going to have public primetime hearings with people. Now, it may not be the some of these people that are idiots that we know what they're going to say.
Turn around, Mel.
Yeah, I know. I saw.
The drone took out your.
The drone taking out everything tonight.
All right, so going back to the time frame now, because these are serious questions for people who don't understand this. All right, so 6 to 10 months now, we get Giuliani in front of this trial. That's going to take a short amount of time. What happens then?
Well,
Nothing.
they try the case, they make a decision. If it's in front of a jury, it'll be a decision that's made, and then it will be enforced. And he has a right to an appeal, but it's up to the discretion of the court whether they want to stay that or not.
Define the decision that can be made, though.
They'll bring him in handcuffs into the Congress to talk.
Right.
So if they go through this process, let's say it's me, right? And we make it to the trial, the judge is going to be like, okay, you were told that you had to come in and talk and you said no. Here's the trial. We're proving that you decided not to come in and talk, even though you were supposed to. Then they can put me in handcuffs and walk me over to Congress and make me talk?
They're not going to put you in handcuffs. They're going to give you an opportunity to go over there. You're going to get your decision, and they're going to give you an opportunity to go over there. And then
if I say no?
If you say, they're going to put you in handcuffs and they're going to put you in prison, then they're going to bring you over. Okay, they're sentencing you and bring you over.
Like, let's be honest, it's going to end up being cuffs.
Yeah. So I either go to jail until I want to speak, or I go over there and I answer whatever questions I want to, whatever they want to ask me. Is that what the end result is?
Yep.
As if the entire fate of the world rests on Steve Bannon. It doesn't.
But it's not just Steve Bannon.
No, I'm just saying in a person.
Everyone.
In the entire process. Because a lot of people don't understand this process. I don't understand this process. It's their right to say no. They get subpoenaed. They drag it out. They go to trial. The trial says you're supposed to talk. Now you're either going to go to jail until you talk, or you're going to go to Congress and you're going to answer the questions.
It goes beyond that, Wade. It's not just they can say no. It's actually a strategy that's used. What you do is you ask them voluntarily to please come in. Then they don't. Then you issue a subpoena and you say to them, please come in. You have a subpoena now, and they say no. And so then part of the case record is that you, Judge, Your Honor, with all due respect, we asked Mr. Giuliani to come in. Willingly, he refused. So then we issued a subpoena, and now he's still refusing, and there's no just basis for him to refuse that subpoena.
Okay.
And let him make his argument.
Great. I'm guilty. What happens to me then?
you're found in criminal contempt, and it's up to the judge how you're going to be sentenced based on federal sentencing guidelines. I don't even know what the federal sentencing guidelines are for criminal contempt. I'd have to look that up. It's been a while.
And the playbook for all of them are called political martyrs.
Mhm.
And they are doing exactly, falling into the exact line that's going to help them win the midterms with
It
the same
is.
thing.
It is.
Each one of them are going to be on Fox News saying we're being persecuted, persecuted, and persecuted. And that's going to just bring even more people out to the polls.
No.
So
Yes.
I think they're playing right into the hands.
They are. You have to remember,
you
they're
think
playing
with
into the
Giuliani
hands
being a
of their
lawyer?
base.
Do you think with Giuliani being a lawyer and understanding what you just said?
No,
Dr.
no,
Tracy,
no.
that
He's an
helped?
idiot.
No.
No, he's an idiot. But here's what I will say is that, we're assuming they're going to behave in a certain way. And what I will tell you is that those people that are lawyers, they don't want a criminal contempt finding against them. And what we very well may see is people turning on each other and tossing each other under the bus. And I know you're shaking your head no, Mel, but I'll tell you, when your law license is up for being disbarred or you being sanctioned and never being able to practice law again, and you need to be able to do something with your life with that law license, because once your law license is taken, there's a whole lot of other things that happen. I'm telling you that it's very likely that we're going to see people starting to flip on each other.
Isn't Giuliani already? He's not allowed to practice law in New York anymore.
He's suspended pending his case.
It doesn't exactly, like, at this point,
permanent.
he doesn't care. This was even before the subpoena for this. Like, his bone to pick is bigger than being disbarred. Like, it's bigger than that. Let's go to the comments though.
I got one comment for that.
Oh,
I got my bet out here right now that he's going around with a ghostwriter right now with everything he's doing. And, law license. Okay, but I'll get a multi-million-dollar book contract out of it. Boom. I'll give my law license to you for that.
Yeah.
He won't get it back if you're disbarred.
Yeah, I'm curious if someone has ever made it past the trial for the subpoena and said no still, and what happened to them?
I mean, there has been people. But
No, there was civil. It was civil. This is criminal. That's different.
I mean, I guess because to me, what I see and what I understand is okay, you're going to talk. So we're going to put you in a hole in the jail until you decide to talk, or we're going to take you into Congress and say you're going to talk. And if you decide not to talk in Congress, we're going to hit you with a cattle prod because you're supposed to talk. I mean, where does the limitation end in that?
I mean, until they're going to eventually have to talk. But isn't it going to be great that they have to talk when all of a sudden the Republicans sweep midterms?
Yeah, because then they get brought in and they ask them, tell me your underwear size. And they tell them, okay, they talk, bye.
Yeah, so they're playing the long game and they're going to win at it. But let's go to the comments. So Kenny says, hey, everyone, I'm late. Just got in from work. Thanks for tuning in after work. Amanda says, did the guy on Smoking Bacon not watch the Schoolhouse Rock cartoon, The Making of a Bill? Amanda says, finally. Amanda says, just skipped all over it. Just put them all in contempt of court. I wish that could just happen, but it is a long, bureaucratic process to do that. Lynn says, ooh, we've been missing Sean's input on this topic for weeks. Yes, we have. Joanna says, I know. So Kenny says, subpoenas should have been the first choice if possible. There's no time to play these games.
It's not that it works.
They could have just subpoenaed them.
Mm-mm.
But
they wouldn't have been as successful in being able to convince DOJ to move forward.
But it still could have been done.
You can do anything.
Yeah.
But
whether you can't do anything, but yeah, that could have been.
Oh, you can do anything once, Mel, but only once.
Amanda says, how are you going to go down for election fraud and still lose? That must really still burn. Philip says, about time. Lindsay says, laugh my ass up at Doc. Kenny says, Dr. Tracy is killing me. Laugh my ass off.
That was the night sky comment.
Wade says, Wade? I'm just saying because I got to read your comment now because I put it up and didn't realize who Wade says, we only saw the one where the bill looked drunk at the stairs of the Capitol. There was a shady corporate guy handing the bill of money, LOL. Philip says, good point, Wade. Lindsay says, Kenny Thomas, dude, she's been on point tonight and getting along with Wade. They're agreeing. I know. And then we had to talk about this. Joanna says, it's a circus because it is. Amanda says, they're just buying themselves time. And that's what Biden takes student loans out of his pockets and forgiveness just to win. LOL. I mean, Biden's going to have to do something. If for the midterms to not be Democrats being steamrolled over, they're going to have to pull out that student loan forgiveness. I don't see any other way that Democrats are going to.
They're going to have to pull out an everybody gets a $10,000 check program.
I mean, something. Lindsay says, there it is. Thanks, John. Nixon comment for the win. Philip says, too long of a process. It is a very long process. Joanna says, it's like watching a soccer game. The winning team is buying time till the end of the game. Yeah. Everyone with the sports references tonight. Amanda says, all of a sudden now Wade is playing Rudolph Giuliani. Wade says, LOL. Lindsay says, but these are fancy politicians who will play and stress the system because they know how to play the game. And I'm going to add into that comment, Republicans know how to win. Philip says, Mel, pay attention to Dr. Tracy. She knows the law. Yes, I know she knows the law, but I've been following this process, and I know this process. If it was just a court case, I would definitely defer to Dr. Tracy, but when it's Congress.
I know you were raised better than that. Don't you be talking back to your daddy.
When it's Congress, it's a little different, and it's a little longer, and it's a lot more paperwork.
I got a point.
Philip says end result is buying time. Lindsay says it's political strategist warfare. Yep. Joanna says whoop whoop Sean. Amanda says what are the possible sentences for contempt of court? Up to 2 years imprisonment at the Crown Court or 1 month at the Magistrate Court, although it can be 2 months in relation to some civil orders.
We don't have a Crown Court.
So that's UK. That's the United Kingdom.
Yeah. So I looked it up.
Come back to this side of the pond.
Yeah. Over here, it's the maximum fine is $1,000, and the money from the fine can be divided up in the event that multiple people were damaged by the conduct of the defendant. Defendant who's found to have committed contempt constituting crimes can be imprisoned for a maximum of 6 months under the terms of 18 U.S.C. Code Section 402. So it's a misdemeanor.
So you're telling me that if I'm a crooked politician and I tell you no repeatedly, and I get all the way to the trial and I tell you to fuck off, I have to pay $1,000 and I get to go to federal pen for 6 months. That's it.
Yeah.
Shit. I don't know why I'm signing up for it.
So Joanna says he's an idiot that needs to upgrade his dye job before he shows up.
Agreed.
Amanda's back on this side of the pond. Philip says agree with Dr. Tracy again. They will turn on each other. I wholeheartedly disagree. They're going to be political martyrs, just like Sean said, and they're going to ride this wave, and their base is going to eat it up. You have to remember that the way that the Democratic base thinks and the way the Republican base thinks are very, very different. They're going to eat this up. Lindsay says, oh my God, Wade, you got Doc to laugh, and Joanna's laughing. All right, you want to read 3 comments from Smoke and Bacon, and then this was supposed to be rapid fire. It turned into a full-fledged conversation. I'm going to mention the next topic after these comments, and we're each going to say 3 words about it.
Okay, look, everybody's about to fall the hell over right now because Las Vegas Luddite says Dr. Tracy may be right.
That's 2 points. That's worth at least 2 points.
I'm not even going to read the rest. It just says that you may be right. I mean, but honestly, says they're not talking routine anything. They're going after the most foul, the conservative Trump friend. It'll go lightning fast. Giuliani's not a kid. He knows how to play. And he says contempt of Congress equals jail. But still, 6 months in the federal Penn Holiday Club?
I mean, the Fed is in jail. Like, the Fed is like...
It's like Club Med.
Yeah.
Only if you're assigned there. It's up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide where you're assigned.
Oh, trust me, someone will buy him off too. It's okay.
Oh, this is all gonna go to the feds.
Yeah. There'll be 6 of them in the same location having tea and crumpet and playing freaking whatever old politicians play.
Yeah,
They'll never be able to vote again, potentially, depending on how this comes out and really what they charge them with. Yes.
No,
Misdemeanor.
they'll be able to vote.
I
They'll still be able to
understand.
vote. It's a misdemeanor. They'll be able to vote.
I understand, but I haven't looked closely at what the charges are and whether it's only one charge.
They'll still be able to vote.
Look, all they're going to do
Even
is
if they
call
lose
Martha
their right to
Stewart and
vote
ask
for
for
maybe
some
4 or
tips.
5 years, they'll get their voting rights back.
But still, they won't be able to vote. It'll be a good thing.
All they're going to do is call Martha Stewart and ask for some tips to make it through that 6 months. They'll be perfectly fine. They'll write their books like Sean says. They'll make their millions. They'll retire. It doesn't matter.
They won't make their millions because the judge can put in place an order that prevents them from making money off this.
He won't do that either because he's getting a kickback on it.
Oh, you just need to stop. You just need to stop.
This is politics
that's
101.
just nonsense. Federal judges, that's nonsense. State judges, maybe.
Oh, wait. Let's go. Payoff. Oh, that's blurring news. Wow. U.S. history on that one.
All right, let's go. So this next topic, we're all going to say a couple words about, and then we're going to move on to the end. So the Biden administration quietly launched this. They didn't make a big deal about it. They didn't make huge announcements, but they quietly launched this website where if you order at-home testing kits from the United States Postal Service, the United States Postal Service will take these kits and deliver it to you free of charge. So Biden announced last month that he was going to purchase 500 million at-home tests to launch the program. That was bigger news than them actually launching the program. And today, throughout the day, at one point they had 750,000 people trying to access the site at one time. I know I went on trying to access the site and it would not load up. So, Sean, thoughts on this test and this quiet launch?
Buy stock in the company that they had to buy 500 million from.
I like that. Dr. Tracy?
Happened with ACA.
Can we say it again?
Happened with ACA. 3 words. And they had to, the website ended up going completely. It didn't work right. They'll fix it.
They'll fix it. Wade?
So when you first brought this up during this show, I actually went onto the website, the UPS website, and registered for mine like that. No issues. But there is a little clause to this that isn't made public yet. It says they will send 1 box of 4 rapid tests to each valid household address. It doesn't say per month, per week, per year. It just says 1 box of 4 rapid tests. That's it.
I mean, they only ordered 500 million. So
I'm just saying.
All right, guys, and that is our show for this evening. We have some information coming out. Dr. Tracy, want to tell us about what's happening Thursday?
Yes, we have a show for you. It starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we are planning on talking about voting rights. I've got a lot to say.
Wade, you got something going on?
Oh, what don't we have going on? Oh, we got so much. Oh, I'm COVID positive, by the way. Just so you know, it can transmit through this interview to everybody. That's the next step. So I'm isolating in my office, so I really don't have anything going on. I'm bored.
And then, Sean, anything going on that you want to announce?
I'm just staying busy helping people develop their companies and businesses. Yeah.
Perfect. And then got a book coming out next week, but you'll hear more about that later. So guys, thank you so much for joining in. This has been the Power Hour panel. We come live every single Tuesday evening and talk to you guys about current events and let you know what's happening across the globe and right here in this great nation as well. And your opinion matters. So as we do the show, as we debate the topics amongst ourselves, we want to hear what you think. We want to hear what your thoughts are about the various topics that we talk about. If you agree with us, perfect. Let us know. If you disagree with us, even better. Let us know. This is the place where you can share your opinions about what really matters across the globe and some of the things that don't matter either. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. And let's go to some of these comments before we sign off. Lynn says Fed pens for politicians is a rite of passage. Is a rite of passage anymore. They all collect merit and participation badges. Our eldest ordered them today, and that's from Lindsay. So eldest ordered them. Amanda says, thank me. I'm the one who told Mel about it this morning. Amanda is the one who told me about it this morning. So thank you, Amanda. And Joanna says, thank you. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see everyone next week. Have a great day, everybody.